You've grown soft. You've clearly decided to stop being Daredevil, which is fine. Daredevil was a stupid idea. But you're also clearly still trying to save people by putting yourself in harm's way. Today on the Comic Book Report, Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky Hardcover, Volume 2. Stick around and check it out. Greetings all, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today we're jumping back into the world of my favorite superhero. Of course, I'm talking about Daredevil. And with Volume 4 of Zdarsky's hardcover run on the title coming out soon, I realized I had a gap in my reviews. So after reviewing Volume 1 and 3 on the channel in the past, I realized it's time to go back and cover Volume 2. And it's a very exciting volume. But before we dive in, I just want to shout out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking to pick up some comic book collected editions, definitely check out their website. You can even use my code at checkout, TheComicBookReport, to receive $2 off of your order. Please note if you use this affiliate code or the affiliate link in my description to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a great way to support the channel. Thank you for considering. Now let's get started with today's review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Chip Zdarsky and illustrated primarily by Marco Checchetto, Jorge Fornes, and Francesco Mobile. The comics in this volume were published by Marvel Comics beginning in 2019. The volume itself collects Daredevil, the 2019 series, issues 11 through 20. And finally, this oversized hardcover edition comes in at 224 pages. At this time, I'd like to issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, now that we have that all out of the way, we can take a look at today's oversized hardcover collection, and right from the jump, I love the cover they chose for this Volume 2. Absolutely incredible, showcasing, of course, our hero, Daredevil, Matt Murdock, and Elektra, who is a feature player in this collection and those moving forward in this Zdarsky era. This oversized hardcover format is really a fun one. It's the height of an omnibus. It has those oversized glossy print pages, a nice, what I believe to be sewn binding. Just overall, a really fantastic set here. I mentioned earlier, I've already reviewed the Volume 1 and Volume 3 in this format. I'm a really big fan here. I love the layout of what we get. And speaking of layouts, I do want to do another quick look at this dust jacket. You'll see the interior flaps, one final look at the jacket itself, before we transition to taking a look at the under the dust jacket artwork printed on this hardback book itself. Again, this is a really fun format for those that maybe don't want to wait for the omnibus edition. It will be the same dimensions, other than being not as long. An omnibus can sometimes have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of pages. These oversized hardcovers are generally a bit smaller. These ones collect anywhere from like 10 to 12 issues or so they're much more compact compared to an omnibus, but it's a really great alternative and a format I really enjoy. At any rate, under the dust jacket, the artwork is phenomenal. We have another wraparound hardcover print here. Really, really exciting, kinetic. I just love the art direction that Marvel's doing with a lot of these printed books. Very, very cool. I also wanted to showcase Zdarsky's run here because I know they just announced an omnibus for the first, I think, 30 issues or so of this run. Really cool. Anyway, just wanted to showcase more of the run, and right now I'll take a look at the binding for you all to see. I had no issues with the binding myself, but I want to give prospective collectors out there just a look of what you can expect if you pick up these oversized hardcover editions. And once we finish with the binding here, we can finally jump into the collection proper, and we can get started on our review of the comic books this collects. We have some nice red end pages before those early couple pages that have the publication information, the title page, lists of creators, things like that. And then we dive right into the issues. So like I said at the beginning, this collects issues 11 through 20 of that Zdarsky era Daredevil. I really love this run so far. I've been waiting for these oversized hardcovers to come out, so I am a bit behind in the ongoing reading. But I know that this run is just now coming to an end at the time of this recording. We're going to have a new creative team jump on the book, but I know that this is an era that so many Daredevil fans, myself included, have thoroughly enjoyed. Like I said, I did review the first and third volumes of this oversized set, and I wanted to loop back around and cover volume 2. I know that this was actually a video that was requested, so here we go. This volume takes place just about directly after the previous volume 1, and so we have Daredevil, Matt Murdock at an interesting personal crossroads, and what better time to have Elektra Nachios come back into his life. This Daredevil we have at this point in the run is really beaten down. He's dealing with guilt, having accidentally killed a person, and he's just really off of his game as Daredevil. He's kind of retired the Daredevil identity and is just kind of trying to be Matt Murdock. We have Elektra show up and basically call him out on it, saying you might have given up Daredevil, but you're still trying to save people, and you're putting people and yourself in harm's way, and you need to basically toughen up, get back in shape, and do this stuff right. And so Elektra comes into this run at this point to become sort of like Stick, sort of like this trainer back into Matt Murdock's life, to get him back in fighting shape, to find his spark, his drive, his center again. And this is a really cool position to see Elektra in. I think that they're using this character in a way I have not seen done in the past, and I think it's just a further development of the Matt Murdock-Elektra relationship, and it's one I'm on board for. While Matt is kind of getting back in shape under the tutelage of Elektra here, we also have citizens across New York kind of taking on the Daredevil mask and trying to right wrongs without this hornhead hero. This is leading to a lot of other people getting hurt in the crossfire. A lot of these fake Daredevils keep popping up, and it's a really fascinating time in the city. We have Matt donning kind of his, Frank Miller Man Without Fear garb, just the black suit with the cover over his head whenever he does want to play vigilante, but we have these citizens with fake Daredevil masks trying to do this as well, and so it's causing all sorts of problems. But I think one of the things I enjoy about the Zdarsky run is we also have a lot of intricate subplots with other major characters, and you can definitely see that in this volume. We have sort of the love interest of Matt during this period, Mindy, who is kind of embroiled in these sort of gangland crime families. She's sort of having an affair or romantic dalliance with Matt Murdock, but she's still very embedded in her kind of husband's side of the family, which is part of this crime organization. There's a lot of rumblings and shakings in the different families, and we still have Mayor Fisk in charge at the helm of New York. So there's all these different factions within this Zdarsky book. Oh, there's also Cole North, the cop who kind of has it out for Daredevil in the last volume. But anyway, between all these characters, we have all of these split narratives that all progress this main story that Zdarsky's trying to push forward, and it's really just very compelling. And I think that this volume is super foundational for everything that's going to come after. It's a really pivotal moment in Daredevil history, and I think it has one of my favorite action scenes ever at the culmination end of this volume. At any rate, some main plot threads that I really enjoyed throughout this part of the run include Matt kind of getting back into shape under Elektra, having different moments of tension with her as his kind of de facto teacher. We have Cole North really kind of having to face a lot of ethical questions in his own mind, trying to serve as faithfully as he can to the police force, but really seeing the merits of Daredevil's form of justice. He really gets into all of these crises of consciousness as he's trying to really find out how to best serve the people and the cause of justice, which he feels so bound to. This is leading to kind of a friendship or alliance with Matt Murdock, which was a really fun development in this volume in particular, having been so at odds in the last volume. I really like this guy kind of coming more into Matt Murdock's sphere of influence as an ally. Really a fun development. I think as far as Mindy's story arc and the kind of gangland family crime syndicates storyline, I didn't really care about this aspect as much, but there was definitely some notable developments on that end. We have some appearances of people like Owlman, and just interesting to see the destabilization of these crime empires with Mayor Fisk serving as like a really prominent political figure and not as much as the kingpin of crime. So it's all kind of leading to really important shifts and conflicts, but that subplot was maybe my least favorite. Going over to actual Mayor Fisk's storylines, though, we have him kind of losing it, trying to keep it together in some of these really sophisticated dinners and outings, trying to be this presentable mayor who, in his mind, believes he's still doing the right thing for a city he really loves, but no one really takes him seriously in the political arena he's in, but he doesn't really have the power in the kind of criminal empire he once did as far as kind of having one foot in, one foot out. This leads to a really interesting issue where he kind of snaps and murders someone in a bathroom. This, of course, is all happening at a very important meeting with some of these elite people within New York. It was just a really interesting place to show just what Fisk is kind of grappling with in his own season of life. I know that this all culminates down the road in Zdarsky's era on Daredevil, but like I said, I think that this is a really foundational volume. We absolutely have a great setup from the volume 1, where we have Matt Murdock coming to terms with him accidentally murdering someone during a fight, and then we lead into everything in volume 2 here that just really ups the stakes, develops these characters, and we're starting to get a better feel for a lot of the supporting cast of the Zdarsky run, and I really love it. And frankly, this volume all culminates, like I mentioned earlier, in this kind of climactic epic battle throughout the just streets of Hell's Kitchen, and I loved it. We had characters like Bullseye, I think Crossbones shows up, Typhoid Mary, I think Stiltman shows up, one of my personal favorites, and everything is just going to war in the streets of New York, and we have Daredevil basically coming out of his sort of self-imposed retirement to defend New York as the true Daredevil. We have even Mayor Fisk kind of throwing down to protect the streets. We have Cole North. All the subplots kind of come to a head in this epic battle throughout the streets of New York. We get to see the people recognize Daredevil as the hero he is, but ultimately this volume concludes with Mayor Fisk basically calling for the arrest of Daredevil, and Daredevil turning himself in to be arrested by Cole North. And so that's where this volume ends, with Daredevil turning himself over to the police. This really sets up the events of volume 3, which again I reviewed on the channel earlier. But it was a really fantastic volume that I think was really well paced and all led to a head. And I think as a volume 2, it was really cool to still have a pretty definitive beginning point to the narrative and an epic conclusion in a single volume. This is one of the better ones in my opinion. I absolutely loved it. I think the scale of the battles and everything Matt Murdock is dealing with in this volume is certainly not an adventure to forget. Changing gears now, shifting from the more plot-heavy elements of this Daredevil volume from Zdarsky over to the art direction, we have Marco Checchetto returning. This is kind of the definitive artist for the Zdarsky era Daredevil, who, when we think about Zdarsky's run, we're gonna think him attached to Marco Cecchetto's artwork, and there's a reason for that. It's absolutely gorgeous. It has this kind of realism, this grit to it, and this vibrancy that's really just one of my favorite renderings of Daredevil I've ever had the privilege to read. But we also have a couple other artists here in this book, including Francesco Mobili and Jorge Fornes, and these artists are also really great, but I will say when you shift to their issues, it is a pretty staggering change of pace. One of them has a kind of art feel that reminds me of the art we got in things like Gotham Central, if you're fans of that, or like Sean Phillips' kind of more style of artwork. A really beautiful comic book style as well, but it's quite a bit different than Cecchetto's artwork, so that's just something to be aware of as you make your way through this volume and as you read the Zdarsky era run. We do have a bit of a changing of the guard as far as the penciler goes at different points, but this volume is heavy with Checchetto art, which I loved seeing. Like I said, everything he touches just really pops from the page. The other artists did a fine job as well, but wow. Checchetto just takes it to another level. But overall, the art direction in this volume is really, really rock solid. It's really reminiscent of the volume 1 as well. I think this Zdarsky era has a really specific style and tone, and I know these artists really help serve that vision. And it's such an integral part of the storytelling, and it's some of my favorite Daredevil art we've ever got. And I think that that's really impressive, considering this Zdarsky era takes place after the Charles Soule run, which was also known for really stunning art direction. And even the Mark Waid run, which I just feel like Daredevil has been firing on all cylinders for like decades now, but this run really does stand out in my mind as one of my top already. I can't wait to continue this saga. Like I said, I'm a little bit behind, but I'm so eager to catch up and finish this run once we get more of these collected editions out for Zdarsky. I think that Zdarsky really understands what makes Daredevil work, what makes Matt Murdock work, and I think that part of that is really having a man who is deeply flawed and always just coming directly into conflict with himself. And I think that we see Daredevil strained and pulled to these points of almost no return in some ways, having accidentally murdered someone, still healing from the events at the end of the Sewell era, and just really trying to figure out what it means to be Matt Murdock or Daredevil in the future. And I think that all of these questions come to a head. He's even making kind of questionable romantic decisions in this era. So we really have Matt Murdock so at conflict with himself, trying to figure out what kind of rises to the surface as far as what's really at the core of his personality, what he stands for, what he's going to serve, what he's going to fight for. And I really love seeing it. And I think even from the beginning of this volume 2 to the very end, we do see some growth and some dynamic features of Matt's character. From the beginning, when he's kind of being confronted by Elektra for not being in ship shape and not really stepping up and going kind of to the plate in the way he needs to the culmination in the Battle of Hell's Kitchen, where he not only fights to preserve his neighborhood and he gets down to the mat and gives it his all, and he takes on all of these evil villains, but also he steps up and kind of tries to get justice for those that he accidentally harmed and turns himself in. I see a lot of the aspects that make him heroic in spite of himself. And I think that that is such a really important, pivotal kind of cornerstone for a great Daredevil run. And I think Zdarsky just has such a commanding grasp of that. And that's not even beginning to talk about everything Elektra contributes to the Zdarsky era. But again, more on that in Volume 3 and beyond. At any rate, you saw the extras at the end of this book. We got some great art, things like that. And you can see Volume 2 amongst the others in these first 3 oversized hardcover editions for Zdarsky's run on Daredevil. A really beautiful set here. And now all that's left is to give Daredevil Volume 2 by Chip Zdarsky hardcover a grade. For another essential and pivotal chapter in the Zdarsky's Daredevil saga, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Daredevil Volume 2 hardcover from Chip Zdarsky a B+. This was a fantastic read, and I think if we had more consistent artwork throughout, this would have easily been an A collection for me. I think overall the Zdarsky run is definitely an A. This is a really great foundational volume that has some really high highs, particularly the culmination at the end of this book. This is a must-read for all Daredevil fans out there, and I would say for any vigilante comic book superhero fan, this is a run I would highly recommend. But let me know what you think of Chip Zdarsky's era on Daredevil or any other Daredevil-related miscellany in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Comic Book Report, and until next time, please don't forget to leave your like and maybe check out some of my other videos. And please, have a good one.